I have to admit, I have a bad habit. I like nostalgia. I know that may seem obvious, but when I watch a new show, I always try my best to not be influenced by other pieces of animation, as long as the show isn't directly referencing them or satirizing them. I try my best to enjoy the shows as much as possible just as is, as its own unique piece of artwork. However, I am trash at this. Hey man, I'm not perfect and I know my weaknesses quite well, and I'm not afraid to admit it. I love shows that remind me of older anime I grew up with, and I think Welcome to Demon School is the perfect example of that. One of my all-time favorite anime was Rosaria plus a Vampire. Not because it was good or well written. To be frank, it's a mediocre harem anime from the mid-2000s that I adored. It was actually part of a really popular genre at the time of monster school anime. I don't know if that makes any sense, but I think you guys get what I'm talking about. Either way, Rosaria plus a Vampire was a very popular anime, and it was one of the first shows that I genuinely binged to completion. So needless to say, it holds a very special place in my heart, despite how mediocre the show may actually be. So when Welcome to Demon School came out, I was a bit nervous. After all, for the most part, the genre of monster school had mostly died off, and honestly, for good reason. It's basically the equivalent of the isekai genre from the mid-2000s, so seeing a show that is reminiscent of that time period being brought back to life scared me. But luckily enough, I can say with confidence that the show is actually awesome. Wait, but Manime, you called the show bad in the title of the video. I know, I'm getting to it. Personally, I find this anime awesome because it does such a great job of reinvigorating my nostalgia with this genre. So, with that said, if you didn't grow up with this kind of anime, I can quickly see just how bored of the show you could get. Basically, I know this sounds weird, if you loved shows like To Love Ru and Rosaria plus a Vampire, you will love this show. But if not, you can try it, but it wouldn't surprise me if you guys didn't end up enjoying it. Granted, I do want to clarify some things. First off, Welcome to Demon School isn't a direct ripoff of the genre. As a matter of fact, if you really look into it, it's changed a lot of the core tropes around the monster high school genre for the better. An easy pick is the art style. Granted, Welcome to Demon School's art style isn't something to write home about, but it's still distinctive and clean looking, which was super rare for this genre. Like I said, it was the isekai genre of the mid-2000s, and so the art styles of these shows often reflected it. They just looked so basic. So this step up in quality of art really just lets you know that they do plan on changing some things around. Speaking of which, secondly, they have removed the integration of ecchi/harem roots from the genre. Although it was extremely popular in the mid-2000s to blatantly show fan service at every opportunity, harem anime and the ecchi genre in general haven't really aged well. Just look at Fire Force as a good example. It was a show with a pretty solid following until they started introducing ecchi, and the show's watch rate plummeted. Granted, there were some other things, but that was definitely one of the major reasons. So Welcome to Demon School has none of that. No ecchi girls constantly flashing their panties to the point where they have to get a bat sensor, and no massive following of girls throwing themselves at our protagonist every waking second of the day. It's honestly a bit refreshing, and I never expected how little I would miss that trope. Granted, like I said, Welcome to Demon School is still an homage to this once popular genre, and they've done that in a spectacular way. One of these classic tropes they've kept in is this ability to fail upwards. For instance, it's always the case where our protagonist is a normal human who somehow ends up enrolled in a demon school or classroom full of demons/monsters. Our protagonist somehow manages, despite being a human, to build a reputation for being one of the strongest demons in the world. And the rest of the show follows him trying to get people to understand that he's actually weak and accidentally makes himself look like a boss. For instance, let's talk about Welcome to Demon School. Iruma-kun's soul gets sold off to the world's strongest demon because his parents are jerks. Luckily enough, the world's strongest demon merely wants a grandson, so he just starts sending Iruma-kun to school. Once there, our protagonist's new grandfather puts a massive spotlight on him and makes him come up to the stage and tricks him into casting some insane spell that would have killed him instantly if he had messed it up. Basically, the show kinda just rinses and repeats this pattern. Iruma-kun is forced into a horrible situation, he lucks himself out of it every single time, and everyone assumes that he's just that badass. It makes for some really great comedy because you begin to understand that he can't really lose, but you always wonder what kind of crazy way he'll get himself out of the situation. Another feature that Welcome to Demon School kept that I just adore are the mini character arcs. Granted, this is far from something unique to this genre, but each time a new character is introduced to the gang, there's this good little mini character arc that they have to go through. I think my favorite so far has to be Clara's. She just wants to play with people, so she gives them free stuff, and when people start not accepting her gifts, she assumes that they are done with her. It's actually really well done and heartfelt, because you get to see her learn what actual friends are. Look, I love this show, and I know most people won't, and that's okay. I understand that most of my love for this show is from nostalgia. I can see how people would quickly become bored of a show like this. However, I do appreciate how the show has tried its best to capture the great parts of this once prominent genre, while sweeping the not so good parts under the rug. I personally think that's why it stands a chance of actually being popular, and why, despite it not being for everyone, I still want to urge people to try it. Welcome to Demon School may be bad in your eyes, but I freaking love it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I actually really wanted to talk about this show, and I'm just kind of happy to be able to promote something like this. I feel like this show isn't getting that much love, so if you want to try this show, I highly recommend it, even if I do admit that I'm not sure most of you are gonna like it. I know it may seem weird, but just trust me on this one. A huge thank you to my patrons. You guys are my heroes. Speaking of which, if you're interested in seeing how I edit, joining our exclusive Discord, or simply supporting the channel, feel free to join me on Patreon. Make sure you guys share, like, comment, and subscribe. This is Manime Matt. Make sure you guys say man and go watch that goddamned anime.